Hey guys, it's me, Shaman Moon here. I'm here with Muertero Chris, the guard owl, my buddy. Hey buddy,
Hey, how's it going, man?
and how are you today?
I'm doing good. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. It's just
Nice.
stormy over here. So, so basically, today's interview is basically a free for all again. Whoever has any questions about anything to me or to Chris, feel free to write them in the comments. So So anything is free for all. So you can ask me or him anything. So basically, Chris, first let's start off. For those that don't know you, let's tell them a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I am Santa Muerte Chris Muniz. I run the channel Muertero Chris the Guard Owl on YouTube. I have been a devotee of La Santisima Muerte going on now for about 4 years. And I have also been reading tarot for clients going on about 3 years now, going on about 4 years roughly. Some of the services I provide for the public are tarot card readings primarily, and also spiritual trabajos or spiritual workings. So that's some of the services I do provide. If anybody's wanting to get into contact with me, you can get in contact with me through my Gmail, which would be the Guard Owl, all lowercase, TheGuardOwl@gmail.com.
Thanks. That'll be cool. So if anybody wants to get a hold of him, I really recommend him. I had a reading from him and it's freaking on point. So he did an amazing job. You did, buddy.
Thank you.
You went to detail. So if y'all haven't got a reading from him, y'all should get one, book one. On that note, how would they book a reading with you, Chris? How?
Booking a reading with me, you just go ahead and email me at theguardowl@gmail.com. Let me know what day and time you're available for your tarot card reading. At that point, I will go ahead and reply back with, I have 2 methods of payment. I'll reply back with both of my links for Cash App and PayPal for you to go ahead and forward your payment. And then with that, I go ahead and book you.
Cool. So there you go, guys. So like I said, if anybody has comments, any questions for us, feel free to write them in the comments, and Chris will read them, and we'll answer them to our best of our ability. So feel free. Like I said, it's a free for all. So basically, I have some questions for you, Chris, from YouTube from
Okay.
one of my followers. They say, "How do I begin with Santa Muerte, not coming off of a Latin American descent? I'm a Caucasian. How can I work with Santa Muerte respectfully without disrespecting the culture?"
Okay. That's a good question. I got to give you props too. Who was that sent you that? What's the name of that person?
This is a person by the name of Zachary 13. Zachary 13 Red Star.
Right on,
That's
Zachary. Well, I give Zachary props right off the bat because it's not often and all the time when we get people that come through with a practice such as ours and throw respects in that same vein. So, mad respect for that. To get to Zachary's question, typically, if let's say, for instance, because see, most people go to La Santisima Muerte as a means of last resorts for helping particular situations in their lives, depending on what that may be. But then for other people, such as maybe Zachary, it sounds like you're just kind of wanting to expand a little bit of knowledge and spiritual lifestyle and to enhance your spiritual lifestyle. and it sounds like you've taken an interest into La Santisima Muerte. So a way to start with La Santisima Muerte is learning her Trinity colors, which is white, red, and black. And it's what I like to call the Orthodox Trinity. There's many other colors to La Santisima Muerte, like purple, gold, yellow, orange, whatnot, brown. But all those colors came a little bit later. If you really want to step into the practice of La Santisima Muerte and to the cult of La Santisima Muerte, it starts with the three main colors, which is white, red, and black. And you actually start with white. So you start with La Santisima Muerte La Blanca, or the white robe, for 3 months. You learn her energy in white. You learn her prayers in white, because each robe has certain particular prayers, and the rosary differs from robe to robe just a bit. So you do that for 3 months. Then you move up to her red robe, Santisima Muerte La Roja. You learn that energy, and you learn those prayers and the novenas and whatnot for 3 months. And then you move on to La Negra for 3 months, or the black robe. So in total, you will have a total of 9 months getting to know her Orthodox Trinity colored robes, which is white, red, and black. And that also equals out to the number 9, which would also coincide with her spiritual number.
Awesome. So he also wrote another. He also really wants to work with Santa Muerte. The person that wrote you that comment, he wrote another one, but he's afraid about I don't know how you pronounce what he's trying to say, procreation, or something about not to step on the religion, like
like cultural appropriation.
yeah, that one.
What's the question about that again?
That he wants to work with Santa Muerte, the person that you just answered.
Zachary.
But yeah, Zachary. But he's afraid of that. Pro.
Well, there's nothing to be afraid of when it comes to approaching La Santisima Muerte, because realistically, even though the practice of La Santisima Muerte comes from a Roman Catholic folk saint tradition in the Mexican form, historically from the Mexican tradition, realistically, death is a universal thing. It's a universal concept. Death comes to everybody: the rich, the poor, the elderly, the young,
The strong, the weak.
the Chinese, the Mexican, or the Anglo. I mean, you name it. Death comes to everybody at some point or another. However, I understand what you're talking about, wanting to approach the practice of La Santisima Muerte and the cult of La Santisima Muerte, already knowing that it mostly comes from a Mexican background, and there's nothing wrong with that. So again, I give you lots of props on that, Zachary. You're on the right foot, stepping into it. What you'll often find, though, when you first get into the practice of La Santisima Muerte, is a lot of the information on her, including like on YouTube. I mean, it's growing more so now in English. The literature on her is growing in the English form, but still the majority of it is still found like in Spanish on YouTube. A lot of Spanish channels on YouTube, Spanish-speaking people. But then again, that has a lot to do with where she comes from in this particular tradition. But working with La Santisima Muerte, or death-like energy, is not very unique to humankind. In different cultures, there's different ways to work with death energy or death spirit from different cultures. It just so happens in the Mexican Roman Catholic folk saint sense, this is how we do it.
That's cool. Okay, that's good to know. So I hope that helped you, Zachary. I hope it helped you. But let's go on to another comment and topic. I have a topic for you, Chris.
Okay.
I heard from another person. What can you do with Santa Muerte involving the cemetery and Santa Muerte? What type of magic can you cook up with Santa Muerte in the cemetery? What is the cemetery in Santa Muerte good for?
Well, working with La Santisima Muerte in the cemetery is actually one of my primary favorite ways to practice with her because the cemetery is literally where those are her stomping grounds. That's where the dead are at. That's where she basically resides, is with the dead. Um, but then again, we're talking in terms of the Roman Catholic folk saint sense, as opposed to the Aztec Mictacasihual sense. Um, but primarily speaking, I mean, La Santisima Muerte and the practice of Santisima Muerte is a Roman Catholic Mexican folk saint tradition. So yes, primarily you're gonna end up you'll find yourself lingering into wandering off into the cemeteries. What I used to like to do, especially when I was back living in San Antonio, um, I used to like going to one of the cemeteries. Uh, they have beautiful cemeteries in San Antonio, by the way, very beautiful ones. But I would go to this one particular cemetery and I would do a lot of meditation there. As a muertero, you do kind of want to harness a bit of that death-like energy, but it's not in like for evil practices or anything like that. Because in the practice of La Santisima Muerte, contrary to popular belief and contrary to modern day practices, realistically, you don't do evil things to anybody with La Santisima Muerte. You don't ask her to do evil things to anybody with La Santisima Muerte. She never really started off like that. Any of those type of things are new modern day things that people are starting to throw into the practice. Um, like to like take vengeance out on somebody. I remember seeing in Breaking Bad. I don't know if anybody out there
Yeah,
remembers that show Breaking.
I've
You
seen
see,
it.
you see,
Yeah,
yeah, you see those cousins, those twin cousins, and they're going. I mean, it does happen. Okay, don't get me wrong, it does happen. People do try to go in that direction, but realistically, La Santisima Muerte, the way she originally started out, traditionally, she's a Roman Catholic folk saint of last resort, just kind of like Saint Jude is. She's there for help. She's there for healing. She's there to help you get by, and help you with the things that you do need in life. For evil things, you can do that yourself. I mean, you
yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like whatever. But yeah, I don't know. With La Santisima Muerte and the cemetery, going back to that, you go to the cemetery, kind of meditate there. You kind of ground yourself. What I used to do is I used to take off my shoes and stand in the grass there in the cemetery and just kind of like ground myself. I would sit there in the cemetery and just kind of like breathe in the fresh air. And because it's a cemetery too, it's not a very frequented place all at once by a ton of people like a shopping mall would be, or going out to, for a walk and in the neighborhood and there's traffic or anything, cemeteries are usually very calm and cool places, very quiet. So it actually is quite the place to want to sit down, meditate, maybe even gather your thoughts, even doing some contemplative meditation. But those are some of the things that you can do with La Santisima Muerte. A common old school practice of La Santisima Muerte that I once heard about is people that couldn't have La Santisima Muerte in their houses because other family members or whatnot, they
Yeah,
didn't
I get
believe
that
in
a lot.
it. So what they would do is they would go to a cemetery and choose a certain spot because, like I said before, cemeteries aren't very, very well frequented, especially certain spots in cemeteries. So oftentimes people will take a statue of La Santisima Muerte, set her up somewhere, and that will become the altar of La Santisima Muerte too, and that's where they will go. So that's one means of kind of doing something like that. But also, when you go to a cemetery, you gotta, and you're gonna be doing spiritual practices, because in this practice, when you're going to a cemetery for your spiritual practice, you're not going to visit, a passed on loved one, that left this plane and is now on to the next. You're not going to go visit their gravesite. You're going for spiritual work for yourself. So you don't just waltz in, you got to leave, leave some change at the door, knock 3 times, enter, let the dead know that you're there. There's a certain way to carry yourself when you walk in, and the same when you walk out, because your business there is not the same as other people that are going to take care of their loved ones, gravesite, pull out the weeds, leave some flowers, you're there for a different reason. So in that same light, you have to enter a certain way and you have to leave a certain way.
That's good. That's good information.
Mm.
So we have some comments here on the platform. So let's go ahead and see those, Chris.
Okay.
Let's see the first one we got. Is from, I can't pronounce her name, so I'll throw it to you, Chris.
Okay, I'm a Santa Muerte devotee too. I'm from Pakistan.
Wow.
I pronounce Sphinx tails. Oh, Sphinx. So Sphinx is like they're from like Egypt, right? The Sphinx, the lion bodied with the head. Yeah, I think that's what a Sphinx is. Sphinx tails.
Wow.
I'm a Santa Muerte devotee too. I'm from Pakistan.
Wow. So she's growing properly, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. Sphinx tails, are you in Pakistan practicing with La Santisima Muerte, or are you from Pakistan here in the United States practicing? Let's see if we can get an answer back.
Okay.
But Chad, that's the thing with La Santisima Muerte too, is
she's cross culture.
She's crossed a lot of cultures, dude. I've heard of her being all the way in Japan, and that's not because some of the statues are like manufactured in Japan or China and then shipped off into Mexico or whatever, and then brought here to the United States. I mean, I've heard the people are and they're hardcore about the Roman Catholic Mexican folk saint tradition of practicing with her. Like they learn the rosaries and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
Like Japan, I've heard of her in. I know she's in Canada a lot, but there's a population of Mexican people up in Canada, so that's no wonder. But I've heard of her in France. I know she's in France too.
She responded, so this is what she said.
From Pakistan, live in California. Oh, okay, yeah. I know there's a big following somewhere in California too. I was watching a documentary earlier, a couple of hours ago. Dang, I don't remember where in California, but they have a temple to La Santisima Muerte somewhere in California too. And the priest that runs the thing, he dresses in old school Roman Catholic garb and all that. He has what do they call that, black a cassock, what the priests wear, the black cassock, and some type of hat.
We also have another comment, dude. I'll throw it to you.
Okay, let's see. This is from Tina J. Hello, glad to be here. I'm Mexican American. I was never introduced to her. I feel recently she came to me in a dream, but was not wearing a robe. Now I am researching her. So thank you. Right on, Tina. That's another cool thing too. Is she's really, really good about dreams. She's really good about coming into people's dreams. Typically, when I dream of her, she comes to me in red. But then again, I started off with her in red. So she usually comes to me in red. The Santisima Muerte statue that I currently work with right now is actually an Aztec Santisima Muerte, but her headdress, the feathers on her headdress are red. So in the same like, I still work with her in red in that sense. But La Santisima Muerte is very good about coming to people in dreams. Usually, if you dream of her in dreams, that's a very, very strong. It's seen as a very strong like message. It's literally how she connects. She'll connect in dreams more than anything.
That's cool.
So, yeah, but I've never really heard of anybody dreaming of her like without a robe or anything. So, you know, in this practice, you'll have people that they will have a small notebook, you know, just a little small memo book at their bedside, you know, or in between the mattress, so that they can just like reach for it whenever they have a dream, and as soon as they wake up, they can, you know, write down what they dreamt. Because then later on, maybe sometime later on, you'll have another dream of her, and you can start to add up the dreams in your notes, and little by little, you'll start to see in a chain event form, you know, you'll start to see the message start to build up. So that's another good thing to do in this practice is to keep like a little memo book, a little memo pad by your bedside or in between the mattress, you know, and just have it ready for yourself, you know, whenever that should happen, if you can remember your dream.
We have.
So Tina J said, yes, it seemed to be, yeah. Thank you. She had on like shirt and pants light blue. Oh, wow. Interesting.
Very interesting.
I don't, you know, I wouldn't, I can't tell you right off the bat. I mean, that's the very first time I've ever heard of anybody dreaming of her.
Me too.
But like in blue jeans, or pants. But I mean, hey, Tina, you know, like I said, that's a good way to start off. You know, keep like a little journal, you know, especially in this practice, it can be part of your practice. You can keep it at the altar. Do you work with her, Tina J? Do you work with her? Are you a devotee of hers? Do you have her in your home? See if we can get a response from Tina J. Oh no, what about you, dude? When was the last time you were here? Okay.
She wrote to us.
We talked telepathically, and she had Mexican lady like in all white whispering in her ear. Yes, it was. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it seems based on what you're telling me, she kind of she comes to you probably more so in that like the white robe type of energy. Very, very kind of, to me, La Santisima Muerte in white, she's very grandmotherly. She's very, very healing. She's very patient. She's very light spoken. You know, she always kind of reminds me of like that grandma that like just like you don't tell her no if she tells you,
Yeah,
like, hey, are you still hungry? Because she's packing the food on the plate, you know. She's very outgoing. She's very outgoing, very caring, very warm.
I get that too, but I also get you that Santa Muerte can be like probably my experience with her. I feel like she can get really stern and really serious, like when she wants you to get down to business.
Oh yeah, dude, trust me, I know. She got me. I mean, even in this platform right now, talking about things live. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. You know, she kind of like knocked me on the head a couple of nights ago, and she got on my ass about some stuff too. It happens to me. It happens to everybody. That's another thing in this practice too. Is the old saying of like, you know, usually when you go to somebody and you ask them, you know, like, hey, La Santisima Muerte, this or that, and should I work with her? You know, one of the first things that most people will tell you is like, well, La Santisima Muerte is not for everybody, you know, and that's one of the reasons. She can almost become a little demanding sometimes. Because when she's trying to get a message through to you, she will try in almost every possible way that she can. I mean, through dreams, through numbers, through certain shapes. One of the things I consistently see, like when I know for a fact, like when she's really really trying to get in touch with me, or trying to get me to pay attention to something that maybe I'm not doing right, something I'm doing wrong, or she's trying to warn me of something or trying to get my attention, I'll start to see triangles a lot. So yeah, I mean that's just one of the, and that's been from the very beginning when I first started working with her, the triangle shapes, and they're still consistent to this very day. Never fails. Triangles.
Sorry, guys. My sister messaged me. Sorry. So where are we at? Uh, okay. Yes, like I was saying, Santa Muerte has a tendency. Like I had experience with her one time. She literally knocked me on the head too. But she grabbed me by the ear, like a grandmother or like a mother would, you know?
Yeah. No, I know what you mean, man. I've experienced some things. I used to tell people, when you get into this practice with La Santisima Muerte, you're kind of almost, I don't want to scare anybody, but just in my own way, it's like you're kind of almost asking to be haunted.
Yeah.
Because initially, that's what you're asking for. You're looking for a spirit guide, and that's kind of like what she kind of ends up becoming. She becomes that best spiritual friend, that looks out for you. That you're making bad decisions. She's gonna start letting you know. She's gonna start letting you have it. She'll come at you in dreams. She'll show you colors, particular shapes, repetitive number sequences. Um, you'll start to, I don't know. I mean, it's gone as crazy as to like seeing certain things on TV that just like they stick out to you in a way that they don't for everybody else, and it's like little like triggers. You know what I mean? Sometimes in music too, especially in music. If you're somebody like myself that's really deeply into music, you listen to a lot of music, more so than watch television and stuff like that. Um, she'll use that as a means to try to get to you as well. Um, so yeah, it's like you're kind of asking to be haunted in a way. Um, and that's why La Santisima Muerte is not for everybody, because she is also the type of spirit guide that she'll be on your ass about stuff. She will.
That's so true. I get that a lot. She's definitely like that with me all the time.
Yeah. It's not a bad thing though. I've never considered it to be a bad thing. It's never really been a hassle. I mean, in the beginning it kind of was, but because when I started off with her, I really didn't have anybody to show me the way or anything like that, and so it was kind of driving me nuts. I had a couple of breakdowns in the beginning because I didn't know what was going on. And for a moment in time, I thought, like, am I losing my mind, or what did I get myself into? Because one of the main tenets is, once you start with her, you never go back. Because even
Yeah,
if you do, even if
that's
you
so
do,
true.
she's not going to go away. So might as well just stick it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's so true. Um, Sorry guys. My sister just messaged me. She wanted me to do her a job with Santa Muerte.
Oh,
So
nice,
speaking on that. That's a good
nice.
topic. That's a good topic. I'll use my sister's message as a topic for you. She wants me to
Okay.
do, and my brother-in-law doesn't mind. She wants me to do a job to get him um out of jail. Are those type of jobs? What do you? what is your moral on that? Because I hear a lot of people saying that I prayed to Santa Muerte to get me out of jail, and she got me out of jail. This, or I asked somebody to light a candle, and I asked for Santa Muerte's help to set me free. Do you think Santa Muerte is capable on doing that? Like that type of energy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because when you go online, you go on Google, especially if you look up, if you go on Google and you type in keywords such as Santisima Muerte, justice, Santisima Muerte, freed me from jail, Santisima Muerte and prisoners, things of that nature, you'll start to run into what they call testimonies. And it's kind of like what people do with St. Jude, for instance. You go and pray to St. Jude for something, you ask him for some help, he comes through, you give your testimony like in the newspaper or online or something, you let people know, hey, St. Jude came from me in this and that, you give a little bit of a testimony. It's one of the ways that you deal with St. Jude. The same thing with La Santisima Muerte when it comes to issues dealing with justice. When she comes through for you like that, you let people know, and it also adds to her. It adds to her celebrity and her popularity as well as, in terms of what she can do for somebody and how she comes through for somebody. In most cases, how fast she is, because that's another thing about La Santisima Muerte. She's very, very fast. She's very quick. But there is a disclaimer though. Just because you go to La Santisima Muerte and ask her, get me out of jail. You also got to think in yourself, am I justified in doing this? I mean, is the reason why you ended up in jail because you really did do, who knows, whatever it is the person may have done to end up in jail? Because let me tell you something, and it's not just Santa Muerte, it's not just St. Jude. I mean, it's any, everything. It can be Hecate, it could be, I mean, you name it, it could be Lucifer for all we know. They're going to see right,
could be whatever.
They're going to see, you know what I mean? They're going to see right through our bullshit. So when one comes to Santa Muerte for assistance, come correct. Come correct, come with respect.
Come with the heart.
Be honest. Honesty will get you really far with La Santisima Muerte. But first and foremost, be honest with yourself too. You know what I mean? And that's something about La Santa Muerte that kind of trips people out. Is she'll force you to be really honest with yourself. She'll humble you really, really quick too. She'll humble you really, really quick and get you to be real honest with yourself. But going back to your question in terms of like issues involving justice, court cases, being bonded out of jail and whatnot through spiritual means, does she come through? Absolutely. There's thousands of testimony online, both YouTube and Google stories, both in English and in Spanish, of she came through for people.
Wow.
So
also on another note, dude, Chris, I have another comment from somebody saying, what is the correlation or the symbolism behind the owl on her statue?
So the owl, okay, this is something that kind of that's kind of how I got like the whole name with the guard owl too. That's actually where the name comes from for the channel. Personally, for me, when it came down to me and my meditations with La Santisima Muerte, I always would notice the owl on her statues. But typically the owl is usually like just below her waistline or at her feet, usually, Now, owls typically in anything spiritual or even like in, I don't really want to put it in this context, but even like in secret societies, for that matter, the owl is usually It symbolizes wisdom. It symbolizes being vigilant, because owls are known for being very vigilant. They're known for being able to see very well. They're known for being very quiet, very stealthy. They're known for being able to hear. So being very vigilant, being very, listening, and with all that, seeing and hearing in the end gathers knowledge. A lot of people would attribute it to like brujeria and witchcraft, and I can see the connection. But typically in Mexica Brujeria, Mexican Brujeria, Mexican witchcraft, it's actually not that particular owl, because the particular owl that we see on the statues of La Santisima Muerte is the great horned owl. In Mexican Brujeria, Mexican witchcraft, the owl that is actually associated with a witch or a shape-shifting witch
It's
that
the bar
shapeshifts
owl,
into
right?
an owl is a barn owl, and it's a white owl. So these are two totally different owls that we're talking about. But as to the great horned owl on the statue, it represents wisdom. It represents a lot of understanding. It also represents, what's the word I'm looking for? Patience. Owls are very patient creatures. If you go online, if you go on YouTube and you look up owls, it could be any type of owl, but documentaries on owls, you'll learn this about them in watching these documentaries. They're extremely, extremely incredible creatures. And that's another thing that La Santisima Muerte teaches, at least as far as my experience goes. In a small amount of time, very quickly, I learned a lot about the cult of La Santisima Muerte, her funny ways of doing things. A lot of it I learned on my own with her. And then later on, as time progressed and I started doing my studies on her, Googling things, going out and checking out literature, buying books and stuff, a lot of the stuff that I had already learned by myself through her and with her, I was starting to see in black and white. And it's like, oh, okay, so I'm on the right path. But that was another like, aha moment for me. Plenty of them showing me that, this particular spirit does actually teach you in a very strange way.
Yeah.
But a lot of the stuff that I had already learned from her on my own, then later on going on to Google and going into books, she had already taught me all this stuff, so I didn't really need those books anymore, and so in retrospect, I feel like that's kind of also what we are. We're kind of like her. We're like her owls. When you become a devotee of La Santisima Muerte, you're seeking knowledge at the same time, and you're practicing patience, because not only are you going to go to her most people go to her for some type of help or another, and she typically, more times than none comes through. But sometimes there's a bit of patience, there's that faith base, you got to put faith into what you're asking her for. And patience has a lot to do with that. But not only that, learning, because after she comes through for something for you, you don't just, typically one does not just like up and walk away and then like, okay, cool, I got what I needed out of it. Like, it's kind of perplexing. And so you end up kind of thinking to yourself like, wow, this actually worked. There's something to this spirit, there's something to this Santa Muerte. There's something going on here. And it makes you wonder, it makes you think. And then you start doing, your research, and you listen to people's testimonies, and then you find people like you and myself, and there's a plethora of devotees of La Santisima Muerte and Muerteros and Muerteras, and not just that kind. You also got curanderos and curanderas too that work with La Santisima Muerte as well. Matter of fact, this practice originally kind of started with curanderos and curanderas.
Yeah, that's true.
It actually really did kind of start with them more so before. Now you got people in all different sorts of walks of life that they're trying to do all this crazy shit with her, like, black magic shit and cursing people and And it's like, it was never like that, you know? These are just new things that people are doing, and, or whatever. Good luck with that shit, but, you know.
I also got another comment, dude, Chris, from somebody, and they also said that they saw a video about Santa Muerte from on YouTube about Santa Muerte in a town in Mexico called Tepito, about Enriqueta Vargas.
Yeah, Enriqueta. Enriqueta, she's basically like the godmother.
Yeah.
The cult of La Santisima Muerte. Tepito is, I've never been, but I've done, you know, like most people in this practice, they do their research, and at some point or another, you're going to end up reading about Tepito, and you're going to run into Enriqueta through your research. What happened with Enriqueta,
Yeah,
I
I did
believe,
that run again. I ran up to her too.
yeah, I believe the whole history with that was that her son had a statue of La Santisima Muerte, and she ended up with it, almost life size like, and she ended up putting her to the forefront of where she lived, in a glass encasing, and that was actually pretty much the beginning of, like, you know, Santa Muerte being brought out into the public and being accepted by the public. And so now that's like a major, I guess, well, yeah, it's a pilgrimage spot now, for many devotees of La Santisima Muerte to go to Tepito now. But another thing too, for a lot of people that don't know any better, even though I've never been there, historically, that particular neighborhood of Tepito is known to be one of the most dangerous places in that part of Mexico. So just a disclaimer, anybody out there that's, you know, wanting to go out there and whatnot, and you know, just keep that in mind. You know, don't go out there alone, and, you know, let people
Yeah,
know.
be
Let
vigilant.
Yeah, be vigilant. Let people know that you're going to be out there and whatnot. But aside from that, at the same token, it's also a very welcoming area, especially for people that go searching out this particular part in Tepito, Enriqueta's property, where she has that statue of La Santisima Muerte, and they have these huge gatherings for La Santa Muerte for her feast days. I believe they have like a weekly rosary where they do a chain rosary, which is everybody that goes there, and I mean, we're talking about hundreds of people weekly go there, and they do this. I believe it's once a week. I could be wrong, but I think it's once a week where they do a rosary prayer, and everybody chains up together by holding hands together. And it leads up to Enriqueta, and she'll put her hand up on the statue, and that energy flows through everybody. And lots of people will take their statues, their rosaries, and whatnot, their images, iconography of La Santisima Muerte, and they'll raise them up into the sky and get a blessing and whatnot, and then they go back home. But yeah, Tepito is like the mecca currently of all the temples worldwide, wherever they may be, of La Santa Muerte. In Tepito, right there with Enriqueta, that is the place to go.
Sorry, I got jumped. Yeah. Sorry, guys. So, my other question for you, homie, Chris, because you're my homie.
Sorry. We know.
So, my other question is, I get a lot of comments from people that are up on my YouTube channel. They'll say, if I don't want to work with Santa Muerte anymore, how can I depart from her respectfully, or will she punish me if I stop working with her?
Okay. I have a good example, a story that happened with me 3 years ago. So 3 years ago, I ended up, I was invited to New Orleans by a Muertero there, and I went. And when I came back to San Antonio, about a week after that, I got that little voice of hers that, the way she used to work with me a lot, told me, get up, get dressed, I need you to go give a message to somebody. And I was like, who? Why now? It was a Sunday. I remember it too. It was a Sunday. And she was like, you need to go down to the south side of San Antonio and to a botanica. And I said, all the botanicas right now are closed. Like, who? And whatever. I listen, because when she talks, I listen. So whatever, there I go getting ready. And I go and I go down there, and she's telling me in my mind, the way her little voice works with me, the little notions that she gives me, go here, go there. And well, I went and I said, you see this botanica's closed? She said, no, not this one over here. Well, lo and behold, there was a botanica right next door, a couple of yards away, that I had never even noticed. Never once in my life noticed it. So I end up walking up there, and sure as shit, dude, I kid you not, the damn place was open. It was fucking open. So I'm tripping now, because I'm like, okay, like, I know this is another one of those ones where, like, I know I'm not crazy. Like, I hear this spirit telling me to come over here, and sure as shit, it's open. So I walk inside. As soon as I walk in, I see huge life-size, statue of Jesus, huge life-size statue of St. Jude and the Virgin Mary, and they had them propped up. I mean, these things were like really big. I mean, you had to like look up at them, and it was a little overwhelming. But as soon as I walked in, nowhere did I see La Santisima Muerte. And this is a little bit before I was in tune with like Santeria and Santeria practices. But immediately it kind of dawned on me, like, oh, I think this is like one of those botanicas. It's more Santeria based, Lucuni and stuff like that. So the guy looks at me, he says, yeah, can I help you? And as soon as I turn and I look at him, I mean, bam, the energy starts flowing through me, and I start reading him. And I said, you used to work with La Santisima Muerte? And he looks at me and he goes, yeah, I did. That's true. Who are you? I told him who I was, and I said, well, I was just kicking back at home, and she told me to come over here and give you a message, dude. And he was like, okay. And I said, what color robe did you use to work with her in? And he kind of gave me a look like he didn't want to tell me, but he wanted me to guess it myself. And, so one of the ways that she has me, kind of decipher things is, she tells me, look over here, look over there. And I would get the color that she worked in, these like little hints, the weird little ways that she hints at you. It's a lot about like going back to like being an owl, like, being observant and following your information and looking around. And I kept on seeing a lot of white in one spot. So I turned and looked at him and I said, oh, okay, you worked with her in the white robe. And he said, okay, I'm listening to you. You got me. And I said, well, she was never done working with you. Long story short, it turned out that this guy, he was a devotee of La Santisima Muerte, but for whatever reasons or another, because of the tradition of Santeria that he went into, he could no longer work with her. And so that's the reason why he stopped working with her. But I guess for whatever reason or another, she just wanted him to know that, okay, you may have stopped working with me or whatever, but I never left you. And she just wanted him to know that. So that as an example to go into an answer, when you stop working with La Santisima Muerte, yes, you can stop working with her. But like I said before, she's never going to leave. She's never going to leave you. She will always still stick by you. And that's one of the reasons why in the beginning of any practice, and I'll tell anybody through this platform right now, when you start working with La Santisima Muerte, you don't turn your back, because technically she's always going to be there anyway, so might as well just keep going forward. But in other cases, such as, for instance, like statues, iconography, pictures, things that people used to venerate La Santisima Muerte, most particularly statues, you don't just like put her away in a closet or whatever. What you do, because she's very feminine, womanly in that aspect of she likes the communication. She adores communication.
Yeah.
So what she would just tell her is like, hey, I'm no longer going to be working with you because of this reason or that reason, whatever one's reasons may be. But what you want to do is you want to find somebody to foster your statue. Give your statue to somebody, and so you're basically going to look for somebody else that's going to care for your statue, your icons, what have you of La Santa Muerte, and pass her on. Make sure she's taken care of. Don't just put her in a closet. There's people that do that with other saints and statues, and they work with them for a time or whatever, and then they put them in storage. And in this practice with La Santisima Muerte, that's as far as I know, you don't do that. Would I say anything to anybody if I found out that they did that? I personally wouldn't. It's their own thing. What would happen, I don't know, because I've never really heard of anybody just stop working with her and then a bad thing happened. I've never heard of that. But I don't know. I just, me personally, I would give my statue to somebody else, if I was going to stop working with her, which is never going to happen. But if it ever came to that, for example, I would give my statue to, maybe I'd give her to you, for instance, or something. I'd give her to somebody that I know knows how to take care of the spirits or whatever, and is willing to work with her, or maybe already works with her and wants to foster my statue.
Yeah.
That's one way of doing it.
Yeah. So, my other question to you, Chris, I get a lot of these questions from other people. They want to know if is it true that if Santa Muerte accepts everyone, like within witchcraft and magic, does she accept everyone?
Okay. I have to really think about how I'm going to answer this because I don't want to throw anybody off.
Uh-huh.
It's a yes and no answer, honestly.
Uh-huh.
La Santisima Muerte works with anybody that's willing to work with her in the correct way, shape, and form of her tradition. And what I mean by that is within the original Roman Catholic Mexican folk saint form. There's a reason why we've been doing these rosaries the way we've been doing them. Probably from the time that my great grandmother was a child, and it's gone on because it's a formulary. Okay, it's a formula. And the reason why it's traditionally done that way is because it's been proven to work. So why stray from that and start introducing all these new concepts and whatnot? Now, where I'm getting with that is, let's say there's somebody that's, they're into Satanism or whatever. There's different concepts of what Satanism is and whatnot. Yeah. But as far as I'm concerned, and my studies into Satanism, real, true, authentic Satanism is really just self-preservation of the oneself. It is very selfish in that sense. It's all about that one person. If you need to step on somebody else's head to get above, so be it. No fucks given kind of thing. Very much about self-preservation. Is Satanism really about Satan? It's really not so much that. It's more of a philosophy. Aside from that, you're not gonna. You can be a Satanist and work with La Santisima Muerte, but don't expect to be a Satanist and work with La Santisima Muerte in the satanic way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because La Santisima Muerte is all about helping, and La Santisima Muerte is all about, she's about unification. She's about help.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you going to go to a folk saint that's all about help and be a Satanist when Satanism is all about self-preservation and only helping thyself.
That's true.
Now that's when you start to get the clashing.
Ya lo chocando.
And this is going back to where I told you how certain things about yourself, La Santisima Muerte will begin to humble you. She'll start to get you to think about what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why La Santisima Muerte is not for everybody. So, yes, you can. La Santisima Muerte accepts anybody. But no, you can't just work with her however you want to, because she's going to flip that on you. She's going to make you think about things. Because part of working with La Santa Muerte is also learning her traditions, learning her history, learning where it came from, which is, deep in Mexico, and how it came about. And when you start researching these things and you start learning these things, you start to learn this is a folk saint about help, about unity, about bringing people together.
Yeah.
So the next thing you're going to think to yourself, so that eventually, if I'm going to go along with this Roman Catholic folk saint, she's going to see right through my bullshit and put me in my place. So either I better flip my shit to work in this way, or if I'm going to try to bullshit her, the bullshit's going to flip on you, because they're going to see right through that shit. So it's a yes and no answer. It just kind of depends on where you're coming from, and know where you're coming from. And don't try to mix in other traditions with her. Like there's people from Palo Mayombe. Watch, case in point, I'm not going to mention any names, but earlier today, I saw somebody that is also a YouTuber. And I respect this person a lot. And recently, he posted that he got some flack from some other guy, some other palero, that probably doesn't even have as much knowledge or experience as this one individual does. But this one individual, this younger guy, this younger palero, a supposed palero, is giving this other palero a lot of flack online publicly because he's a palero, okay, in Palo Mayombe, but he also wears a La Santisima Muerte. Here's the thing, though. This particular palero that I know about, and I've researched myself, and I've seen plenty of times, he does videos and everything, and he's done interviews with people. I've seen him plenty of times. I'm pretty sure you've seen him too. I'm not going to mention any names, though, because of the situation. But, yes, he was La Santa Muerte, but he doesn't mix Santa Muerte practices with Palo Mayombe. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So there is that kind of like defining line in knowing how to do things and not trying to twist things and make them into something else that they are. Something that I saw in my time in New Orleans, I'm not going to mention any names there either, but at the time I was still kind of learning. Knowing what I know now, some of the things that I saw there in New Orleans, I did see Palo Mayombe being mixed in with La Santa Muerte. At the time, I didn't know any better because I was still kind of like learning some things. But knowing what I know now, it was, and thinking back to it, it's a very erroneous thing. And you will get that. You will get that if you talk to people from the Roman Catholic Mexican folk tradition, real authentic, older people, elder people in this practice. They'll tell you, we never mixed Palo with Santa Muerte. We never mixed Santeria with her. We never did this or that with her. We never melded those things together. Neither did those other cultures do that. Now you're seeing all sorts of things. And it's not just Santa Muerte. It's Palo with, I don't know what the hell else is out there. I mean, they're mixing Palo with Wicca now, and it's just like the most intense, crazy.
What the hell? I never heard of that.
I've seen some crazy, ignorant. I'm gonna say it. I've seen some very ignorant things being done on YouTube, and it's mind-boggling. It's pretty ridiculous, and it's kind of like, at the same token, it's kind of also like, how I don't know, man. It's just, there's some people on the YouTube platform, on the Facebook platform, that they're more into, I'm going to say what it is, okay? They're into the spirit, what I call spiritual celebrity. You know what I'm saying? And so they're mixing all these things up, and with these crazy videos with Santa Muerte and all these crazy candles, and you got all these like sigils going on, and then you got those of us that were looking at it like, the fuck are they doing? You know, like, and all they're really doing is leading people astray. And if anything, if there is any kind of end result that they're getting out of it spiritually, I really don't think it would be Santa Muerte coming in through for them. It's something else pretending to be. Because they're allowing themselves to that, and they're misleading people out there. So then they're really not getting Santa Muerte. You know, if you really want Santa Muerte, you're gonna go to the old school stuff, to the original formula.
Yeah,
you know, white robe, red robe, black robe. You know.
Sorry.
And there's nothing wrong with having the other colors too. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with having these other colors too. We've had this discussion between you and I earlier this week on our own. Realistically, even the white, the red, and the black. I'm not really time for Santa Muerte. But I mean, if I was Santa Muerte, like, I wouldn't really care. I mean, I don't really think she cares about these colored robes. You know, these are things for us. These are things to help us to decipher. Okay, well, white is for this, red is for that, black is for that. But Santa Muerte or any other saint or any other spirit is probably like,
they don't care what they're wearing.
Like, you know, what do you got for me? I'm listening to you. You know, they don't really care what color candles. These are more of our own mental, fleshy aspects of ourselves that we find for ourselves. You know. And to a certain degree, I mean, they're there for a reason. They're focal points. That's what they serve as. They serve as focal points. But do the spirits themselves really give a damn about the color? I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it.
Hold on, I'm gonna get some water too. That's dry.
Oh no, brother! You said it was raining over there, right? Just like put the cup outside the window. I miss that Texas rain though. When it rains in Texas, it smells a certain way. The dirt smell, the wet dirt has a smell. I miss that smell. I don't get that smell here in Lowell. It doesn't smell like that over here when it rains.
So basically, I'm gonna answer the question you were asking me. You're gonna ask me a question. I didn't get to answer it because of the comment. You were gonna ask me a question. About something.
Oh yeah. So I wanted to know, for you and yourself with La Santa Muerte, like when you first started working with her, was it just something that like what got you working with her? What got you going?
Honestly, I didn't go looking for her. I didn't go like, oh, I want to work with her. No, she was actually pursuing me. She was getting my attention. She was giving me dreams about her. I didn't even know who she was. Like I didn't even know that there was even a spirit called Santa Muerte. You know.
Yeah.
So I kept getting this image of this Grim Reaper looking type of person or spirit coming in my dreams, you know, and I never knew who it was. I thought it was just the regular Grim Reaper until a cousin of mine took me to a Llaveria, which is a different form of a botanica.
Yeah.
Mexican shop, and then I started looking around and go, oh, I've seen that image before in my dream. And they tell me, well, this is Santa Muerte. I'm like, Santa Muerte? I never heard of her. So it turns out it was actually Santa Muerte death personified.
Yeah.
So basically how I worked with her is when I met this curandero, and this curandero told me, well, this spirit is working with you, speaking with you. And that's how I got into it. And I'm like, wow. But
Is
overall, I didn't go looking for her. She was pursuing me. She's like, I like you. I want to work with you. I've been with you, and I like what you stand for, and I think we could be a good team. Like,
That's cool, man. Do you remember where did this happen? Like, was this your
here
time
where
in
I'm at.
over
Here,
there? Oh,
yeah,
okay. You know, you spent some time in San Antonio, right?
yeah. Only for
Oh,
2 years.
oh, okay. So, you know what? I miss those San Antonio botanicas, though, man.
Yeah.
They got some good ones down there in the south
Um,
side.
I also wanted to ask you, what other spiritual background do you have besides working with Santa Muerte? Do you have any other spiritual backgrounds?
I do. I honestly, I've never really ever talked openly to anybody really about them. Um, so I'm an
You don't have
initiated.
to if you don't want to. I would just.
It's fine. I'm an initiated witch as well. I'm not going to mention what tradition because it's a little secret in that way, but I will say that my initiation involved a sword being put up to me, and I was blindfolded, and I have to take a certain oath and whatnot. Um, and there were certain, Egyptian type symbols that were surrounding me and effigies and stuff like that. Um, and there were crystals involved and whatnot. But as to exactly what tradition that's in, I'm not really going to go too deep into or mention what it is. It is a little bit of a secret of mine. But I am an initiated witch. Um, aside from that, aside from Santa Muerte, a lot of my researching and studies involve a lot of esoterics in Egyptian magic, and things of that nature.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So, before we end the segment, does anybody have any questions for me or for Chris? Does anybody out there have any questions? Feel free to write them in the comments and let us know. We're at your disposal right now. Do you have any questions for me, Chris?
Yeah, you know what? I wanted to ask you too. When you started with La Santa Muerte, what color did you start? Like, did you start with a certain color? Did it matter to you after
Me,
you found out
me,
about her?
when she first appeared to me, she appeared to me twice. The first time she appeared to me, she appeared in her Aztec form, but she wasn't all skeleton. She was like a lady, like a full blown,
Oh,
like
weird.
like hot chick with flesh,
Yeah,
dressed in the Aztec garb and everything. She
trip out.
wasn't she wasn't dead. She didn't look like a skeleton at all. She had flesh,
Yeah,
and her name was what you said, Mikata Siwa. You
Nick
know,
the Casilla. Yeah.
yeah. She told me that was her name. So I went to all the curanderos and I asked them because I got a reading. I asked them who is the Kasiwa, and nobody could tell me the answer until I met another friend of mine in another friend of mine in San Antonio, which he's my mentor, and he also had a YouTube channel as well. Um, and he told me that it was the form of La Santisima Muerte.
Mm.
She came in the traditional Aztec form, but instead of freaking you out, she had flesh.
Oh, trip out.
Yeah,
So, like, how
but
did
she was
how did that
gorgeous.
correlate? So, how did that correlate with you? Like later on, like now when you practice with her, do you still view her in that same way? Like when you work with her, like how do you
Yes,
practice with her
I
now?
don't. I see. I see Santa Muerte in two different forms when she appears to me. She normally doesn't appear to me like in the robed or skeleton form anymore. The only thing that I see when I see Santa Muerte and she lets me know because I hear Santa Muerte's voice, like if I were talking to you, like a little, like a
Yeah.
real voice. And she's very soothing. She's very comforting. But I see her in Aztec form with flesh, or sometimes I see her skeleton face with her regalia, or with her outfit of the Aztec.
Right on, man. Um, Another thing I wanted to bring up too, though, is
But
in the
I
practice
want to
of
tell you this too. I wanted to tell y'all this too. When I see Santa Muerte, I don't see her with the sickle. She has a spear instead of a sickle.
oh, the scythe.
Yeah. Instead of the scythe, she has a spear.
I've seen some interesting things nowadays too. Like you'll see her. I mean, not too often anymore. Well, I'm not gonna say anymore. Not too often now, but every so often you'll see her like with a sword,
Yeah.
and it reminds me of like what do they call those things? These characters from the Lord of the Rings, the
Yeah.
raid, ring raid.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of that. Or you'll see her with like it's usually like the life size Santa Muerte.
Yeah.
It's like a big wooden staff with like a wooden skull on the top.
Yeah, that's
I
how I
think those are
that's
really interesting.
that's what I saw her when she appeared to me, but it wasn't a staff, it was literally a spear with the skull around the what do you call that? Around the spear, the sharp part, the pointy part, the
Well, I
knife.
think that's like the spear part. I would
Yeah.
think.
It had like it had like skull, like there was a big skull hanging from it and everything. Man, like like her face was painted.
I've seen a crazy picture like that too online.
And
You know,
and
sometimes
she
I'll go
told
on Google.
and she told me, Chris, I'm Santa Muerte. I'm Mika Kasiwa. I'm the wife of Mictlan, you know? Mictlan the Cookling,
Yeah, yeah.
you know? So that's how I met with Santa Muerte. That's how she appears to me now. She doesn't appear to me in red, black, or white robe or stuff like that anymore. It's very rare when she appears to me in that form. She only appears to me in that form to let me know what type of, like, if I see a devotee, like if I were to see you in person, she will come into the color of what you're working with. Like the way
Yeah.
she did it with you, like picking out the statue in the shop. Well, for
Hmm.
me, I see her physically around people, around her devotees, and I know what color they work with or what aspect they venerate because I see her as the way I see you. I actually see her like if I see you right now.
Oh, okay.
So I don't
Yeah,
know
the
how
crazy thing too is
I don't know how you explain that or what type of
no,
ability that.
people do see her. People do see her, notice her, like physically. For instance, I have a muertera in San Antonio,
Yeah.
and she had told me this one story one time where it's not a very long story, but like where because I was asking her questions, I had asked her, like because she kind of appeared to me at one point
Hmm.
in San Antonio in this apartment that I was living in, not too far away from my muertera down there. And I went to her the next day and I said, I think she came to me. And she was like, oh, well, in Spanish, but she told me, like, oh, yeah, well, she'll come to you in dreams. I said, no, I mean, like, I think she, like, literally, I was awake and I think she came. I
Hmm.
think she came to me. And she's like, well, what did you see? And I said, well, it was kind of like, it wasn't so much what I saw, it's more like what I felt.
Yeah.
And typically whenever she does come around me or if she's ever somewhere near me, I get like a frog in my throat. And
Yeah, that's the way I feel.
I've heard of other people getting that same
I
thing.
I
And like
think
you just know it's her. You know it's her.
I think
Um,
that's what was happening to me earlier because I was getting. Oh, she saw me cough a lot and clear my throat. and I think she was present in the interview.
It happens, dude. But yeah, my Muertera was telling me one time, she goes,
Yeah.
well, she told me one time I was asleep. And I think she told me it was like her niece or something like that. It was her niece. Her niece that was staying there, she started freaking out because she said that they were sitting there watching TV. And I guess there's a restroom down the hall. And then in the corner of their eye, they thought that they saw like a woman, but like in a robe or some type of robe, like a hooded robe,
Hmm?
walk like in their peripheral vision, walk into the bathroom. And they thought that it was my muertera, they thought it was her aunt. But then when they realized that she didn't close the door, she didn't turn on the light, and she didn't come out for a while, they were like, well, why is she in there like that? So they went to go check on her. Her niece got up to go check. And she said that I guess kind of like the way the lighting is in here, like, so there's lighting in here where I'm sitting, but then down the hall, it gets a little dark and a little darker. So they used the light to see, down the hallway. They didn't turn on the lights, but they could see that there was like this image just kind of like, or somebody was like standing there. And it freaked her out. So she took off back to the living room, I guess, wherever they were at.
Wow.
And told her, oh, well, she's just in there standing there, whatever. And they were like, okay, whatever. Well, after a few more minutes, they noticed, like, okay, she doesn't close the door. She doesn't turn on the light. Like, what is she doing in there,
Wow.
Just standing there. So finally, she did decide to get up and go and check. And it was gone. Well, while this was going on, it turns out my Muertera, she was actually asleep in the bedroom, and she felt a presence all of a sudden in the bedroom. And that she woke up, and when she turned around to look, she saw the same kind of figure, but in her mind, she wasn't scared. She was like, it's my Santa Muerte. She's coming to check on me, and she's in the house,
Yeah.
And that would make sense because from what my Muertera told me, the house that they now currently have, where this episode happened, it was one of those situations in her life where I don't really remember the whole story about that she told me, but there's a story behind that house too. And she had told her, if you help me out with this house or whatever, the house will actually be more so yours than it will ever be mine or the rest of the family. And you're free to roam wherever you want, and you'll have your own room and everything. And I've been to the house, and she actually does have her own room in the house. And she literally has her like 15 feet tall in red. Really Santa Muerte, and she has other statues of her in there, but she has her own room in that house. It's her own room.
Wow.
Getting back to like the question of like promises and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was a promise that she kept to her and told her, if you help us get this house or whatever, it'll also be more so your house than ours, and you can free to roam in that house, and we'll give you your own room. And yeah, she has her own bedroom in that house.
Wow.
Nothing else goes on in that room except for her. Tons and tons of statues of her in there, and altars and what have you.
Wow.
But yeah, my Muertera had told me the story, and she had told me, but she goes, I remember waking up and feeling like a knot in my throat, like a frog in my throat.
Yeah, that's what I feel all the time.
She didn't freak out. So when her niece went into the bedroom and said, what were you doing in the bathroom or whatever? And she was like, no, stop looking. Like, y'all are crazy. Like, it was my Santa Muerte. She's here. She's walking around. And it freaked them out, because, I mean, they know about La Santa Muerte, my Muertera. She's a bruja and everything. So she grew them up with that. They're used to the culture. But it was one of those things where, like, it threw them off. And they're like, oh, shit, But people do see her. She does come around.
Yeah. She does manifest.
And it's also, like I told you, it's kind of like you're asking to be haunted, So when you have La Santa Muerte in your life, you can expect for her to kind of manifest sometimes. She'll come around. She'll look around.
Man, I love that. I love anything gothic. So I'm very a gothic guy. I like gothic.
That's beyond gothic, but that's literally like, that's like asking to be haunted.
Yeah.
But at the same token, I mean, that's your spirit guide, so why would you be afraid?
Yeah.
I remember the first time that it happened to me, it freaked me out. And other times where she has come around, I don't freak out anymore. I now know, like, whenever I get that feeling in my throat. around here.
I have another question, dude, from somebody that just wrote. He asked, "Are children of Santa Muerte born or made?"
Are children of La Santisima Muerte born or made?
Yeah.
Geez, dude. Honestly, I don't want to give any a false answer or a fanatical answer to that.
I guess what he's trying to say that
Go
Santa
looking for her.
Muerte. So I guess what he's trying to say is the Santa Muerte. Are you assigned Santa Muerte or does Santa Muerte choose you? Um, as a son or daughter, like, are you already like? I guess what he's trying to say that's on here is that.
When you become a devotee of La Santa Muerte, you become a
Mhm.
child of her. You
Yeah.
know, it's kind of like it's a nice way of saying it. Like, instead of saying I'm a devotee, like, like me, I'm a son of La Santa Muerte. If it's a female and she's a devotee, like, I'm a daughter of La Santisima Muerte. She's my spiritual mother,
Yeah.
or she's my spiritual godmother. She's known as La Madrina también. Also in Spanish,
O la niña blanca, ¿verdad?
but more so La Madrina, which means the godmother in English. And so just like in Roman Catholicism, which I was raised in, when you're confirmed in the faith, after going through catechism and confirmation classes, then you get confirmed in the faith, you get yourself a padrino and a madrina, your godparents in the faith, so that should anything happen to your family members, your mother, your father, and you're still too young or whatever, your spiritual godparents, they will take that place and they take you in, they
Did
confirm your faith. And then so in that sense, they're also Roman Catholic as well, because
that still happen? Does that still
oh,
happen nowadays?
yeah, they still do that. Heck yeah. The Roman Catholic Church, that's well, I mean, that's how you basically become a Roman Catholic. In the Roman Catholic Church, it's baptism into the faith and then confirmation. So it's baptism, your catechism, your confirmation classes, and then you get confirmed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? Any more questions for me?
Let's see. Oh yeah, I wanted to ask you. So, because like me, for instance, I'm somebody that listens to a lot of music, and we were talking about this. I listen to a lot more music than I do watch TV
Yeah.
a whole lot. And if I do, it's mostly like whatever I choose on Netflix or YouTube.
Yeah.
But do you ever receive messages like whenever you're listening to music? Is there anything that like if it pops to you, or like songs that you've heard over and over throughout your life, all of a sudden the song that you've heard thousands of times in your life off the radio pops on, but then all of a sudden it hits you differently, like as if you're
Yeah.
getting a spiritual message through it.
Yeah. I get that.
Has this happened ever since the time that you started, you brought Santisima Muerte into your life and you started, working with her and you became a devotee to her? Or because that happens to me a lot, and it didn't used to happen like that until after I brought her to my life.
Yeah. It happened to me when I brought her in. When I accepted her into my life and in my home.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
Also, when you work with La Santa Muerte, how do you do it with her practice? Well, in your practice with her, because here's another thing with La Santa Muerte in this practice. Not only is there the formulary ways of working with her,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's the weird little things that each individual devotee does with her too. Like, can you give us an example of maybe something you do a little different with her that, not that you're changing the cultura, the culture of her or the cult of her, but something out of your own heart that you do with her in your practice with her that, is there something special that you do?
Something special that I do. Well, okay. Well, how can I put it? Well, right now, I'm gonna tell you, right now, I'm currently without a statue right now of
Okay.
Santa Muerte. So right now, somebody's fostering a Santa Muerte of mine.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, when I had a statue of Santa Muerte, I would always I would always knock on the door and say, "Good morning, Santa Muerte. Good morning, Marina," or "Good morning, mi reina." I call her mi reina, the
Yeah.
queen. But the second thing that I would always, to get started whenever I'm doing a ritual, I would always, um, I don't know, I get this tendency and I do it a lot. I always bow down to her feet and I kiss her feet of her statue,
Mm-hmm.
and I kiss her forehead and I place my hand on
Mm.
the statue and I just focus on her and then I step back and for some reason I don't know and then I offer her like her pan dulce. Have you seen those?
Yeah, yeah, like the conchas and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I call them pan dulce.
Yeah, pan dulces.
Yeah,
Mexican tea bread.
yeah. So I always say una Padre Nuestro sometimes, like 3 times, and I knock on her. I knock on her altar. That's like a routine that I came up on my own. She told me to
Yeah.
do that, and that's kind of weird. Like it's not it's not like what other people do. It's like the way I work with her, Chris, is I go from what she tells me. I don't
Yeah.
go by a book. I don't go by this or by anybody else. I just go for what I feel and when I'm being guided. But that's what I do. That's kind of out of the ordinary. I just you know kiss her feet, put my hand on her head, um, say like a prayer. It doesn't have to be the Our Father. It's like a different prayer I say in Aztec. And then I give her the concha and her coffee.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't know if that's
Yeah, it's like your own like
what you're trying to
little,
ask me.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
like routine. Yeah. Because a lot of people sometimes I think they get into this practice and of course some of the first things you're gonna learn is like the the assortment of colors or the trinity of colors, what they all represent, the energies and whatnot.
I
Um,
also I also want to throw this out there for anybody that's listening. If you really want to become a true Santa Muerte devotee, like if you really want to build up a relationship with Santa Muerte, and this is what I was taught by Santa Muerte herself, is that don't get too much fixated on the statues.
yeah,
You, you know, that's what I see with a lot of people. They say, "What statue should I start off with?" or "What statue should I get?" or "What statue should I get?" or "What's the next statue?" or "I need this statue for this job," or "I need this statue for that job," or "I need this statue for this trabajo." Yes, the statues have an energy of their own, but want to build up a relationship, try not to focus too much on the statues itself and focus
right.
on the spirit of Santa Muerte.
Yeah. I agree with that too.
You know,
I agree with that too.
you can be a devotee and not have no statue of Santa Muerte or a picture of Santa Muerte anywhere in your house. It doesn't
Yeah.
make you less of a devotee of Santa Muerte.
Yeah.
That's what
You know
I
what?
learned about Santa Muerte.
Even in the beginning, with a lot of the early devotees of La Santisima Muerte, they didn't have a whole lot. We got to remember that this practice this tradition of Santa Muerte, it it originally came from the marginalized and the poor in Mexico. So
Yeah,
they really didn't have like, you know, a lot of money to throw down on like candles galore and oils and statues and of different colors.
yeah, um,
Now, I mean, a lot of them, from what I understand, actually originally started with like a prayer card. You
yeah.
know, it was like a prayer card on a table with like a little white candle and a little glass of water.
It
And I
does.
mean, that's as far as it went.
Yeah. With her, it's like she always told me,
You see
"Your
life
faith."
size statues and
Yeah,
with that. There's nothing
she
wrong with
always.
that. It shows the growth of the faith of her cult following.
Yeah, it's
But
the faith.
like you're saying, you know, what you were saying reminds me of like things that I've read through my research on the cult de la Santa Muerte, going back into history. Like a lot of these people, they didn't even have like all these crazy statues and life size
Yeah,
statues.
and that's what I'm saying, dude. I think.
Prayer card, and that was
Yeah,
like for that's all they used
I think
forever.
what people, I think that's what's wrong with people today. Like, I'm sorry if I step on any toes, but like I speak my mind. But I think a lot of people get too much caught up with the statues. You know, they're
Yeah,
like they get too caught up. You know, my advice to the people that are really starting out is that build up your relationship with Santa Muerte
yeah,
first, herself. You know, her spirit.
yeah,
Get to know her spirit first before you end up buying a statue. That's my personal opinion.
yeah.
Hi
Another
guys.
thing, another thing I want to interject real quick about, it just hit me too, is that you know, for somebody that's barely getting into the practice of Santa Muerte, and even though you're going out and getting literature, you're going to find a lot of these books, whether they're in English or Spanish, that they come with more spell casting
Yeah,
and ritual and everything. And realistically, that's all still pretty new stuff. This is just stuff that's really been thrown in there. Realistically, and I'm going to use that word, realistically, La
yeah,
Santa Muerte originally came from a Roman Catholic folk saint tradition, which I mean to say, there was never really any brujeria or witchcraft thrown into it. You know, she was perceived just as in the same vein as like Saint Jude. You don't see people doing like, you know, a Saint Jude, a book on Saint Jude with like all these crazy like spells and using pentagrams and sigils and oils, and
yeah,
you don't see a lot of that, you know.
yeah,
You know, and then so in the same vein, originally La Santa Muerte, she never really was like that. You know, doing my research, going back into it, these are all these crazy new things that people are throwing in. And you know what? Let's be honest, a lot of these books that people are writing now, especially the English ones,
yeah,
um, a lot of them are coming from people from like, I don't want to single out Wicca or anything like that, but you get what I'm saying.
yeah, yeah,
And they're throwing in their whole spin and their whole mix into, which is fine. Hey, to each their own. It's your book or whatever. But what I'm trying to say is to anybody that's getting into this practice, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't put too much
thought
faith
into
in a lot of that spell stuff, because realistically, a lot of the stuff that we do with Santa Muerte is actually a lot of faith healing and a lot of faith prayer. We're looking for positive results.
yeah.
We're looking
Hey,
for a good result. You know, we're looking for help in a financial situation. You know, we're not looking to curse anybody, to break up a you know a relationship so you can get the man or you can get the woman, or because you just for some odd reason you just have it out for that couple and you just want them split up. You want the, I mean, there's all this crazy shit going on with Santa Muerte that now that it's like, wow,
yeah, I get that a lot.
what the fuck?
I
You
get
know?
that a lot. I also have another question for you, dude. This is the last one for the segment. Have you ever experienced like when you work with Santa Muerte? I know I have sometimes. Or when I do work with Santa Muerte, I noticed that when you do work something with spell work and stuff, I noticed that sometimes you get drained real quick, or
Yeah.
you get tired, or your bones hurt, or your energy,
Yes.
or your head starts to.
Okay, so I was having this messaging back and forth discussion with somebody else yesterday, who's a tarot card reader on YouTube, a very popular one too. I'm a fan of him too. But he was mentioning about, even after doing one tarot card reading, how you can feel very drained. It's
Yeah,
just draining. So for anybody that's doing tarot card readings with the help of La Santa Muerte, intervening and helping you out with your tarot card readings and that energy coming through, and also reading for other people. I recommend having a white candle and a glass of water out for you, or for you and your tarot card client, whoever it is that you're reading for, or even if you're practicing on yourself. And when you're done, you you throw out the glass of water outside. You know, it's a form of a vessel to, if anything negative is trying to come through and attack. Because let's be honest, when you're opening yourself up in the form of any form of divination, in this case tarot card reading. And the reason why I only bring up tarot card reading is because in this practice, tarot card reading seems to be the most used form of divination. Um, you're opening yourself up, and you're concentrating all of a sudden. When you're washing dishes, you're concentrating on washing dishes. When you're concentrating on a show, you're concentrating on a show. When you're concentrating on doing divination, this is something different now. You're concentrating on actually opening yourself up to receive message from what we call spirit, or from your spirit guide. In this
yeah,
case, may it be Santa Muerte. But sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, these other spirits that roam the earth, same earth that we live on, there's other spirits that roam around, and they see this shit, and they try to come through, and they try to attack. They try to attach themselves either to you or to your client or to both.
yeah,
Okay. Now, what they're going to do is they're going to look they're going to look for light, and they're going to look for the most clearest form of liquid. Okay, that's what the glass of water is for. Why? Because in our bodies we have a certain percentage of water in our bodies, but also the blood. And it is said, not just biblically, but in other forms of spiritual text, the blood is where the life is at. So they're going to try
yeah,
to
yeah,
attach through those means. Okay, so you put the candle next to the water, and it creates a prism. So they're going to go towards that glass of water. If it's negative, we're hoping it'll get entrapped into that, and that's what we throw out. That's why the glass of water is there, and that's why the candle is there, the white candle. It's a form of protection. Now, here's the afterwards. This is the afterwards, the whole thing of feeling drained. Because you're using so much mental, reading, whether you're doing it just right off the bat, off of your own physical mind, or you're using cards, or what have you. I don't care what form of divination it is. Ouija board, don't matter. It really does come down to concentration. And when you're concentrating so deeply, it can take a whole lot out of you. Not only that, but if you're reading for somebody else, you're doing a lot of talking. And so when you're doing so much talking, it's you're exercising the mind, you're exercising the senses, you're trying to listen, you're using your intuition. So your mind is also paying attention to your body. Then you're talking a lot. So then your lungs are working a lot. So by the time you're done, yeah, you're going to feel a little exhausted. What I like to do, if I have it available to me, is I always rely on oranges. I like to have an orange or two available. If they're available to me, if I feel that way, bam, I eat an orange or two. I feel great within 5-10 minutes afterwards, and I'm ready to
wow,
go at it. So eating something really good and really light afterwards. a piece of fruit, something like that.
That's awesome.
That always helps.
So that's gonna end the segment, guys. Before we end it, please, Chris, let people know how they can reach you one more time in case they missed it.
Okay. So, anybody out there wanting to reach me, it's all lowercase at theguardowl@gmail.com. That's spelled out TheGuardowl@gmail.com. And my two methods of payment for readings or any kind of spiritual workings, trabajos, is through Cash App and PayPal only.
Yeah. And if anybody has any idea what other types of videos you think me and Chris can do, please let us know. If y'all have any ideas for new content for our channels, or if you want us to team up for anything for another interview, and if y'all have topics, feel free to write them in the comments.
Right on, brother.
Yeah. So y'all have a wonderful night, guys, and I'll talk to you in a minute, Chris.
All right, sounds good, man. Good night, everybody. A rato.
Oh, we have one more comment coming.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you both so much. I cherish all your wisdom. We both share on Santisima Muerte. You're welcome. Who is this? Miércoles Gomez Tarot. Oh, okay, another tarot card reader. I think, right? Is that what's going
Yeah,
on
I
with you,
think
Miércoles?
so.
Really? Okay,
By
I
any
might
chance,
channel out if she's got a channel.
yeah,
No, Miércoles Gomez Tarot. Do you have a channel?
that's what I was gonna ask too. If she had the channel.
Yeah, that's good. It's simple to post her channel information, share it with us so that other people can go and check her out too. And see if she'll
Yeah,
answer back.
she wrote. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead and why don't you go ahead and give us your channel information on here now so that people can see whenever
Yeah.
they end up
And
they can go
I'll definitely subscribe to your channel.
as will I.
She wrote this, but I don't understand what she says.
Oh, okay. She's not reading for the public. Right? Oh, okay. So she doesn't do like the general tarot card readings.
Okay.
Oh. Well, still, nonetheless.
Nonetheless, that's amazing. Yeah.
Well, so that's pretty cool, man. Well, appreciate it, Nicolas Gomez Tarot. Thank you too. We appreciate your.
Yeah, we thank you too. So thank you guys. Have a nice time, and I'll see you in a minute, Chris.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.